How come I only get a chair when you're here?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hi, guys. Chris, good afternoon. Obviously unfortunate that Byron Jones couldn't help you this year. There's not a lot of cap relief by cutting him until after June 1st. Does he intend to continue playing? And also, is there any desire to try to salvage that, perhaps with a restructured deal? Or do you think both parties will be moving on from each other at this point?
I was saying I always look forward to your question to kick things off, Barry.
Start with haymakers.
And not Tua related, oddly enough.
No, like I said, Byron, worked hard, trying to get back. Unfortunately, didn't work out. He did his best. Training, doctors, everybody worked hard. The season just ended. We're not there yet. We're still, after the tough loss yesterday, we're kind of, licking our wounds and just going about our process. And we'll meet with the coaching staff here, trainers, doctors, talk about every player on the roster. So we're just not there right now to deal with it. But Byron did everything he could to try and play. So no qualms with that at all.
Chris, did you consider this a successful season, and if so, why?
I would say successful, but at the end of the day, every team's looking, all 32 teams are trying to get to that ultimate goal. But it was successful. I would say not satisfied. I think to watch the guys compete yesterday, knowing with the injuries we had, we've played the team 3 times, Buffalo, and what Coach McDermott, Brandon Bean, and those guys have done is tremendous. I have great respect for them and told them that after the game. And for our guys to go up there in that environment, and most of that roster hadn't been in a playoff environment before, and go down 17 and not blink and come back and fight and get into it and have a chance late in the game to, tie it up or potentially win. Very excited. We're disappointed we lost, but very excited. So I would say yes, it was a successful season.
Chris, yesterday you were asked Mike about who was standing with the team, and he essentially said yes. We intend to welcome him back as a starter and leader of our team next season. With that being said, I was wondering if you could kind of elaborate on that. And in terms of the offseason, do you plan to exercise fifth-year option? And in terms of the long-term deal, where are you with that?
Yeah, I would say with Tua, he's our starting quarterback. So, I don't know how we could say it any more clearly. We've been that way through this season and what he's done, and what Mike and Tua, Bevel, Chandler, the coaching staff have all done. They've all worked tremendously hard, all of them together. So, Tua's, we anticipate him, talking with the doctors and consultants and everyone we've dealt with. We fully expect him back next year, 100% ready to go, and then we'll get through all those decisions. Like I said, just like we talked about every player on the roster, and obviously I understand because it's Tua, and that's why the question's being asked. But we'll go through our process. But he is our starting quarterback, and will be next season.
Mike, a follow-up Chris's response there. Is it just a process that Tua has to go through so that he's ensured that he's healthy coming into at least the TAs that you got moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that's driven by the doctors. That those are the things that they're the experts in those fields. And when they tell us that he's ready to play, and as we expect, they tell us that he's ready to play coming in the spring or whatever, then we'll press forward in that direction.
This is for a year with concussions, and again, I'm a few credits short of my MD, but what I've read is that you have a couple you might be susceptible to getting more easily. Is that a concern with Tua, and what confidence do you have that this won't be a recurring issue for him?
Well, I think from what our doctors and the consultants we've talked to through the NFLPA, that is not a true statement. So for us, I don't think he's any more prone than anyone else. So for us, we're just going through and letting the doctors and the medical staff and the people in in that field, like you said, that know a lot more. But from everything we've been told, that is not a concern.
Yeah, specifically, these are the doctors that are working with him directly and individually, as opposed to a generalization.
We've got all 3 concussions, or 2 concussions, when he gets set and comes back. Is there anything you can do personally? Are you guys looking into that, or are you looking into stuff like that?
Well, what's interesting is that his helmet is one of the higher rated helmets. It's like in the top 2 or 3, I think, in terms from the NFL rating. So it's I believe it was, I think 3 or 2, if I'm wrong. You can check it, but it's in the top for helmet safety. So I think with every player, that's a choice that they make because they all like the comfort, feel, and whatever. But I think those will be discussions that he'll have with all of us, equipment, doctors, and stuff. But it is a very safe helmet in terms of how the NFL has rated helmets.
Yeah, and with regard to our plan is kind of approach it like you do a young quarterback who's not used to sliding. We have ideas and thoughts on how to, help him, because that is a consistency that we've noticed as well, is that they're ground induced. So we're, like everything else, do everything in our power to help coach him, and that's a new way to attempt to coach.
For either of you, what are your thoughts on the job that Josh Boyer did as defensive coordinator this season?
I was very, very proud of the defense, the coaching staff, and the players on how on the specifically the very end of the season. I think the last 3 regular season games, they in a place of adversity, they found their best self, I think, and then. I couldn't be prouder of yesterday specifically with, you're talking about 7 sacks and turnovers and, just really aggressive play. So very, very proud of the way the defense finished the season.
Have any changes on the coaching staff been conversed about?
It's pretty early. I mean, I think 24 hours ago, we might have had a lead, maybe. And, one of the things that I've found from my experience in the National Football League is that it's very long, it's very emotional, and you're not always, you can lend yourself to living with regret if you make any sort of decisions emotionally. So we're going to go through the process, and you got to kind of let things simmer for really the entire coaching staff, just like you do with players, and have communication. But it's gonna take a minute, and we're just out of I'm just getting my feeling back in my hands from the cold winter Buffalo skies.
How extensive will your research be this offseason, getting ready to find those diamond players?
Yeah, I think it's the same process we've always been. It doesn't matter how many picks we have or what, you have to go through it because you have to be ready for every scenario. So our guys we're out at All-Star games last week. They're out All-Star games now from all of them, from all divisions, HBCUs, they've been all-star games. So, our guys are in the middle of that process right now, and then I'll jump into it here the next couple of weeks coming up with the East-West and Senior Bowl and stuff.
That's the only way that you have. You don't plan on having injuries. You don't plan on. You just plan on going through the process like they do, and the coaching staff will join eventually. And when you go about it in that, with that diligence and that intent, then you wind up with players like Cater. That we didn't go out trying to find a corner that would start for us, but he ended up starting because you're doing your due diligence.
Chris, what are your early leanings on Mike Gesicki after watching one season of the marriage between him and this offense?
No, I think Mike did a good job this year. I think we had a great individual conversations with him probably a couple hours ago. So I told Mike I was proud of him. He did a nice job. He made some plays yesterday for us, got us back in the game. So he worked through it all this year. We'll see what the future holds. He's earned the right to be a free agent, but we're happy for him, and he did a nice job, and I know his teammates are happy for him, as you saw when he scored the touchdown yesterday.
Chris, there obviously was help. Liam with Thrive at left guard and Austin at right tackle. Unfortunately, both got hurt. Liam ended up playing more. Do you have any initial instinct as to whether you want to continue down that course with those positions, with those players, to allow them to win starting jobs next year, or if you need to address those two positions elsewhere this offseason?
Every position will always keep, but they're two young players again. That again, this would be the first offense they will be in 2 years in a row, and Liam showed some really good signs of playing well for stretches after adjusting, to this system and being asked to do stuff he had never been done before. And we actually joked before one of our games when he got hurt. A coach and a GM and another team came over and was like, "Man, he was losing Eichenberg hurt," because he said he's been playing really well for you. So I mean, it's encouraging to hear that from others, to see the work that Mike and Frank and Matt and the offensive staff put in with him, and his hard work as well. And then Austin was playing really good. He was the one we were talking about all preseason, and then he gets hurt week 1 on kind of a fluke thing, and then comes back and same injury, which is, 1 in a million things. So again, he's still young, a lot of upside, needs to keep developing to continue, but no, they're both part of the plan, and we'll give them opportunities to grow and compete here.
Mike, I know the season just ended, but what were some of your biggest takeaways or lessons learned from your rookie season as a head coach?
No, there's a lot to learn each and every game, just each and every experience. I didn't really realize how rewarding a lot of things would be. I didn't realize how certain things not going your way would keep you up quite as late at night. I think all in all, I think that's kind of the nature of how I've learned to try to attack each and every year, and anything you do is find more to learn from than the average Joe. So that doesn't change in this seat by any stretch. There's new things that happen every day. I'm excited to have a little experience with handling each and every one of them. Although I've thought about it, it's a different thing to, really attack it. And then, you learn that you are only as good as everyone you work with. I think I thought about that going into it. That was a principle and philosophy of mine, but truly living it, you can't. You just rely on a lot of people deciding to go in one direction, and that is it's a humbling experience, but it's also very validating and reinforces what the position truly is that you are a service to a lot of people that are trying all to do the same thing, and trying to orchestrate that is not easy, but it sure is worth it.
How do you approach Tua's contract coming up with the 5th-year option and, if possible, an extension?
Just like I said, we'll have discussions and talk through it, just like we'll have discussions with Christian Wilkins, all these other guys who are coming up here. So
we like to discuss.
Are you open to a 5th-year option? Taking the 5th-year option too?
I think everything's on the table for us. So.
Chris, you mentioned Christian Wilkins eligible for an extension. How big of a priority is getting that done after the type of year that he's had?
Yeah, Christian's had back-to-back really good years for us. Everything he's done on and off the field. Last week, was it Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
I'll never forget it.
He's in my office talking, and it's about 6:45, and all of a sudden he goes, "What is that?" And it's dark, and the lights are on the field, and we see someone working out. He's like, "Who is it?" And so he flashed the laser pointer on. He looks up, and it's Christian out there by himself at 6:45 in the dark, doing drills to work. So that's just the type of person he is, and how much he loves this game and the leadership role that Mike and the players have empowered him in. And so for us, yeah, it'll be important to talk to him and work with him and keep him here, because he's been a big part. He was one of the first guys here, and through this, and we talked about that after the Jets game. He and we hugged after he does his usual jump, trying to knock me over and hurt my ACL.
Classic.
But we talked about that. He'd been through a lot of stuff, and how happy he was to get a chance to go to the playoffs. So,
Mike, could you talk about yesterday, the coming close, but also the last few minutes, and time management and all that. You probably thought about it, what went wrong and what can you correct?
No, I always think about. So think about it this way. So there's, I think, in the regular season, offensively, there was 1,084 plays. Okay, it's like kind of a baseball player. A lot of them don't work with everyone intending to work. So there's a lot of constructive criticism that I put on myself first and foremost. Bottom line is when in the biggest moment, we weren't able to execute. There was compounding variables to that, things that you can't really change in hindsight. There were some things that as I mentioned before, that I was working out, that need to work out with the staff, but also, it's bottom line is I need to work it out with the staff. So if it became a problem in crunch time, that's ultimately my responsibility. It wasn't necessarily for a lack of direction. It was more just really working on the nuances of communication, which starts with me. But that being said, I think that's the most important thing that I took from it. I don't think it helped the situation to have the rookie quarterback in a second start with a new starting running back, a new starting left guard, a new right guard, and a new starting right tackle. All of those things hurt communication. Probably, the way I look at things is in hindsight, you learn that that many new players in one game, you have to be mindful of that when you're building a plan with a lot of communication. So all things you learn from it. I was proud of the guys for really proud of the entire team for allowing us to be in that situation, and because of that, there's a lot of young players that really can understand the gravity of how you operate in the spring, how you operate in training camp. All of it matters because you're building for those moments where you don't want a time issue to be the reason why you're having to watch the rest of the postseason from your home.
Mike, has Skylar Thompson earned the privilege to be the number 2 quarterback behind Tua, or will there be competition in training camp?
Whew. Man, if I had an answer to that, that would be, I don't know, that'd be bittersweet for you, because it'd be cool to have an answer to write about, but then, how much work am I really doing? I think his teammates were very pumped about how he rose to the occasion. Again, I think he was the second 7th round rookie to start a playoff game. He was a day late and $1 short. He could have been the first. Not only that, on top of that, people, it's easy to forget that he started a game, got injured, and then was out. So he came back from injury. And one of the reasons why it's so impressive is, college games, the NFL season is a grind for college players. All rookies involved in that game know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like, whoa, we're still playing football. And he was relentless about the season. Really, the veterans all trusted him with the season on the line. That's a huge ringing endorsement from his teammates, and we'll see what old Chris has up his sleeve. You never know. He's got long sleeves.
Chris, from watching this defense, do you believe that upgrades are needed at inside linebacker particularly? And with you guys up against the cap, is there money for any real impact outside signing at any position?
Yeah, we always have flexibility, and we've done a lot of work to make sure we've maintained that. So what it is right now is not what it will be at the start of the season. So, for us, well, like I said, we're going to keep going through a process here of evaluating everything. So, I think guys, especially the defense, second half of the year played really well. We were just talking about when Bradley came on. Our analytics, we just ran a study for us, and we moved into like the top 10 of top 8 of like 6 of our 12 metrics we really value for defense, just his impact coming in. So, and that's running pass. I know everyone likes to look at everything, but he's in. And then on the exit meetings today, some of the defensive guys were talking about how cool he was and what a good guy and work ethic, toughness, leadership. So I think with all that, we look at it all. Landon Roberts did a nice job showing leadership. Baker, Duke, all those guys. Channing, we're excited for his future in terms of development, which we kind of expected that this year, that he would be more of a special teams guy. And so I think where we are, and Sam did a nice job on special teams. I don't want to leave anyone out, but we're going to, that position, because I know you're asking because there are a lot of free agents in that position, but we'll just keep doing our work and filling the holes like we always do.
Chris, considering all the injuries this team had, will you be placing greater emphasis on players' injury history in roster decisions going forward?
I think you can't be scared of stuff. I mean, talk about, Teron was a Pro Bowl left tackle, the impact he did, with us in terms of leadership and what he did was on the field for us. Raheem, another guy people talked about being hurt, had a career year and everything he had done in terms of leadership and stuff again. And so, I mean, if you're scared to, like Bradley, again, Chubb was another one people said, but they're good players. They're the right type of people you bring into a building for a young team to help impact. And it's far-reaching than, they miss a game or two here, which you never hope they do. But injuries happen. It's football. I mean, I told you guys before, my dad drafted Curtis Martin. Curtis Martin never finished a game in his college career, and everyone said it was a mistake. And then the guy never missed a game in his career. So
I wouldn't want to be the GM that took Frank Gore off my board.
Coach, earlier Chris had alluded to Liam and Austin playing the same offense for the second year in a row. What are some of the tangible impacts of that continuity coming into year 2 next year for the offense to take another step forward?
I mean, it is really the nuts and bolts of execution, understanding the foundational movement and prioritizing every single really inch that you approach how you block people. Those things. The game of inches is a cliche for a reason, and part of the philosophy of the offense is very specific in how you attack and try to enter into your blocks on the other side of the line of scrimmage. That is also in conflict to a lot of things that have been deliberately trained for an extended period of time. Bottom line is, to undo that, it's one thing in practice. I think that they did a phenomenal job of that, and more often than not, it applied to the game. But there's times that you just go to a muscle memory of sorts that you can play out of your drill work that reverts to things that you've done in the past, and that type of disconnect. If you have 2 linemen on different levels, I'll tell you one thing: a D lineman or a linebacker is not getting blocked. So you have to be in concert. It's extremely important and very beneficial in this type of system in year 2 specifically, to really have that year 1 groundwork prove great dividends in year 2.
Thank you, guys.
No.